The rise of Portugal, from a frontier county to a global power. Portugal's story is one of endurance, courage and discovery. From a small corner of the Iberian Peninsula, it rose to rule half the world's oceans, shaping continents and cultures far beyond Europe's shores. Its journey from medieval battles to modern democracy is a mirror of human ambition itself. The birth of a nation, 12th–13th century. Portugal's roots stretch back to the early Middle Ages, when the Iberian Peninsula was a patchwork of Christian and Muslim territories. After centuries of Moorish rule, Christian kingdoms in the north began to reclaim the land in a long campaign known as the Reconquista. Among these Christian realms was the county of Portugal, granted to Henry of Burgundy in 1095 by the King of Leon and Castile as a reward for his loyalty and military service. Henry's son, Afonso Henriques, would become the true founder of Portugal, ambitious and defiant. Afonso rebelled against his mother's rule and declared himself Prince of Portugal in 1128 after the Battle of São Mamede. He then fought the Moors to expand his territory and secured independence from Leon. In 1143, the Treaty of Zamora recognized Afonso as King Afonso I of Portugal, and by 1179, the Pope officially acknowledged Portugal as a sovereign kingdom. By the end of the 13th century, Portugal's borders were largely fixed, remarkably stable compared to other European nations. Its frontiers, drawn between the Minho River in the north and the Algarve in the south, remain almost unchanged to this day. The age of exploration, 15th–16th century. The 15th century transformed Portugal from a small kingdom into a world empire. Under the visionary guidance of Prince Henry the Navigator, Portugal pioneered exploration along the West African coast, opening new trade routes and establishing the foundations of global navigation. In 1415, the capture of Ceuta in North Africa marked the first overseas conquest. From there, Portuguese explorers sailed further. Bartolomeu Dias rounded the Cape of Good Hope in 1488, proving a sea route to the east was possible. Vasco da Gama reached India in 1498, establishing a direct maritime link between Europe and Asia. Pedro Álvares Cabral discovered Brazil in 1500, securing Portugal's largest and most lucrative colony. By the early 1500s, Portugal had built a vast maritime empire stretching from Brazil to Goa, Mozambique, Angola, and Macau. Lisbon became the heart of a global trading network, the first true world economy, dealing in spices, gold, slaves, and silk. The small Atlantic nation stood as one of the most powerful empires in history. Decline and foreign rule, 17th–18th century. But empires rise and fall. After the death of King Sebastian in 1578, at the disastrous Battle of Alcácer Quibir, Portugal faced a succession crisis. With no heir, the Spanish king Philip II claimed the Portuguese crown in 1580, uniting Spain and Portugal under one rule, the Iberian Union. For 60 years, Portugal's empire was effectively controlled from Madrid, and rivals like England and the Netherlands began seizing Portuguese colonies. In 1640, the Portuguese revolted. John IV of the House of Braganza led the restoration of independence, ending Spanish rule. The following decades were marked by efforts to rebuild the empire and strengthen alliances, most notably with England, whose support was secured by treaties like the Methuen Treaty of 1703, promoting trade in wine and textiles. The 18th century saw a brief resurgence under Marquis of Pombal, the powerful minister who modernized Portugal after the Lisbon earthquake of 1755, one of the most devastating in European history. Pombal rebuilt Lisbon and implemented sweeping economic and educational reforms, laying the foundation for a more centralized state. Revolutions, colonies, and the fall of empire, 19th–20th century. The 19th century brought upheaval. In 1807, Napoleon's troops invaded Portugal, forcing the royal family to flee to Brazil, an unprecedented move that turned Rio de Janeiro into the temporary capital of the Portuguese Empire. When King João VI returned to Lisbon in 1821, Brazil declared independence the following year. ending centuries of colonial unity. At home, Portugal oscillated between monarchy and instability. The Liberal Wars, 1828-1834, pitted constitutionalists against absolutists, culminating in a constitutional monarchy. Yet economic struggles and political turmoil persisted into the early 20th century. In 1910, a revolution finally toppled the monarchy, establishing the Portuguese Republic. However, chaos followed: assassinations, coups, and financial crises. In 1926, a military dictatorship took control, paving the way for Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, whose authoritarian Estado Novo regime would rule Portugal for nearly 40 years. The Carnation Revolution and modern Portugal, 1974 today. By the 1970s, Portugal was isolated, poor, and clinging to fading colonies in Africa. The colonial wars in Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau drained the country's resources and morale. On April 25, 1974, a peaceful military coup known as the Carnation Revolution ended Salazar's dictatorship, continued briefly by Marcelo Caetano, and restored democracy. Soldiers placed carnations in their gun barrels, a symbol of freedom and unity. Soon after, Portugal granted independence to its African colonies and began rebuilding its democracy. In 1986, it joined the European Economic Community, now the EU, and in 1999, it adopted the euro. The once isolated kingdom had become a modern European nation. Portugal today. Today, Portugal stands as a stable democracy known for its cultural heritage, tourism, and technological growth. From Lisbon's pastel streets to the vineyards of the Douro Valley, from fado music to Cristiano Ronaldo, Portugal blends its proud past with a forward-looking spirit. It remains one of the world's oldest continuous nations, small in size but immense in legacy. From the daring voyages of the 15th century to the peaceful revolution of 1974, Portugal's journey is proof that greatness isn't measured by land or wealth, but by resilience, vision, and the courage to begin again.